budget, because we look at a number of issues that probably affect the common mwananchi, the people from different parts of our country. We tried as much as we can to balance and make sure that there is equity in terms of distribution of the national resources, of what we have as a country and what we have as a government. Mr. Speaker, we understand that, there were rumors that, we had removed money from the food feeding program for our primary and day school students. And Mr. Speaker, we want to confirm to this House that we return that money that is supposed to support our children, our public primary schools, especially from the areas that are affected by drought. And we are able to retain that money. And we are also pleading with this committee and with this House that we need to keep enhancing the budget of food feeding program. I have tried it in my constituency using a different model, and it is really working. We are able to retain many students, many children in school, especially on our public primary school. And we understand the poverty index in these areas, and therefore it was prudent for us to make sure that we enhance that budget, probably to a tune of about 5 billion shillings, as Mheshimiwa Murray was suggesting, that even not only to cover on areas of ASAL, but also to cover on even other areas that probably will go to all across the country, on all schools across our country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, in the next budget, I'm going to be very keen to support and enhance that budget so that we make sure, and we separate from the ministry and to the department that is supposed to be doing that, and make sure that we finance them, make sure that we appropriate money to the NACONEC and give them an enough budget to enhance and make sure that they distribute this feeding program to all our day school, because it will help us to retain a number of our schools, of our students in schools, Mr. Speaker. Also, on the issue of pending bills, Mr. Speaker, the issue of pending bills have become, such a huge elephant in this country, Mr. Speaker. These are Kenyans affected by their own governments. They supply the government, they supply the county government, and at the end of the day, they are not paid the money that they are supposed to be paid by this institution, Mr. Speaker. The issue of a pending bill came out clearly that we must do something as a house, we must do something as a government, we must do something as a country, because a number of people who are being auctioned day and night because of pending bills, there are so many, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we are able to plan and to appropriate to a tune of about 20 billion shillings, whereby we're going to start paying off the pending bill, Mr. Speaker. And we are supporting a law, whether we're going to bring it to the floor of the House, and make sure that the first charge of every ministry should go to the pending bill, Mr. Speaker. These are Kenyans who have invested their money with government. Some have borrowed from the bank institutions. Some have borrowed even to Shylocks because they have gotten an opportunity to do business with government. They have known they're going to supply this kind of a material, and then after a day or two, after a month or so, I'm going to be paying my money, and I go and pay the Shylocks, Mr. Speaker, and make maybe a 50 shillings or 20 shillings and provide food to their family. But what happens is that they are not able to pay these loans. And what happens, whatever collateral that they put, they are taken away by the banks, they are taken away by the Shylocks, the crooks, Mr. Speaker, and Kenyans are suffering because of the pending bill. And we really want to even urge our governors, because it is a tradition now. Any incoming governor, he does not pay the previous governor's bills, Mr. Speaker. We must come up with a law to ensure and even to force all the county government that they should start paying their pending bills. And if they're not going to be paying, Mr. Speaker, we can even task or pass a law in this House, Mr. Speaker, and ask the Treasury to be paying these people their money, those who have a pending bill over more than 2 or 3 years, Mr. Speaker. Because these are Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. They pay taxes, Mr. Speaker. And it is quite unfortunate that they are not able even to sustain their family. They are not even able to rescue their families, Mr. Speaker, and their properties, because the counties have refused to pay them. The government has refused to pay them. And therefore, we saw it fit, Mr. Speaker, to appropriate to a tune of about 20 billion shillings that will be able to start paying the pending bills of all Kenyans who are owned by the government, Mr. Speaker. We were also able to make sure that we have set aside money for employment of the JSS teachers, Mr. Speaker. From where we stand, these teachers have done an amazing work by trying to support our CBC program in our public day schools, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, there was no budget allocation. And we support the minister, we support the government, we support the president, because he said that we must employ the 46,000 JSS teachers this financial year. And one of the money that we appropriated is to make sure that all the JSS teachers have been absorbed this before the January of 2025. They have been absorbed by Teacher Service Commission and the Ministry of Education so that they can continue to offer services to our children and make sure that those children are well taken care of, Mr. Speaker, because those children are leaders of tomorrow in our republic, Mr. Speaker. Apart from that, we have seen quite a number of work that has been done by the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Majority of the work in our day schools, majority of the work in our public schools, majority of the works in our security sector have been undertaken, and in terms of infrastructure, have been undertaken by NGCDF. And I want to inform the House, Mr. Speaker, that this financial year, the NGCDF is going to get an increment, even to attune to the minimum of about maybe 200 million shillings per constituency, which is going to go a long way in making sure that we offer bursaries to our students and make sure we increase the amount of money that our students are able to get. Those who are going for boarding schools, those who are going for day schools, those who are going for tertiary and even university will be able to appropriate because our bursary kitty will be increased, Mr. Speaker. We have been also pushing the NGCDF committee to make sure it is practical and possible for us to start feeding program in our schools, in our constituency, and this money can be able to cater for that. The increment of this money will go a long way, Mr. Speaker, to make sure we have ICT hubs that we are starting in every constituency and every ward, so that we can employ many young people within the republic who are not having any wage, any salaries, any job, Mr. Speaker, and we start, even robbing whatever the president has been saying and looking for jobs outside the country. Those ICT hubs will come a long way. We have appropriated money, and this NGCDF will help us to cater for infrastructures in our public schools, because you realize, especially in our areas where I come from, in Kiambaa constituency, in Kiambu County, we have many students in one classroom. So you realize, Mr. Speaker, one classroom is taking a population of about 100 students, Mr. Speaker. So this money will go a long way by making sure we are able to expand our infrastructure, and now by the employment of the JSS, we will be able also to support them in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the school feeding program, in terms of making sure they have the bursary and retaining quite a number of our students in public schools, Mr. Speaker. We congratulate the Committee on Budget and Appropriation Committee, because even in areas to do with electricity, we were able to appropriate, to plan for, Mr. Speaker, almost to a tune of about 14 billion shillings that is going to LELEC. And this money will go to each and every constituency to a tune of about 50 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. Areas that are affected by last mile, that they want to connect more homes to electricity, now they have an opportunity to plan and budget. Areas that need street lights, like my area, we are able, because our population, and we have so many people who work within Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, we are able to appropriate and make sure we have street lights, so that people who are doing business even late, we can be able to approach and attract a 24-hour economy, Mr. Speaker. So this money will go a long way in terms of making sure that that is done, and every constituency will be able to get to a tune of about 50 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. Money on coffee, we were able to appropriate some money on coffee reforms that affect our people, especially on issues to do with coffee. We have appropriated money to bring about the reforms to facilitate those people who will be doing the coffee reforms, Mr. Speaker. The issues to do with the capitation and increasing the money in terms of health, in terms of education, we have appropriated money, and we want to plead with the Ministry of Education that they make sure the amount are planned and appropriated for each and every student, they get to our public day schools and public primary schools on time, so that the teachers and the principals and the headmasters can be able to plan for our students without any hiccup, without waiting for money to come later and realizing that the money has been cut. So we are asking the ministry.
Honorable MP for Kwanza, followed by the MP for Jorok.
At least, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And on very onset, I want to thank the committee for having come up with this well-balanced. I must say it's well-balanced because there are few things that have been highlighted in this budget. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that this again is what we have been doing. As an oversight parliament, first and foremost, it was actually good news that actually this country, compared to other countries with 37th fastest growing economy in the world, I can't believe it, but it's done through the research, and I can tell you that that is very good. Secondly, and of course very important, that you can see from the exchange rate, Mr. Speaker, at one time, the exchange rate to a dollar, shilling to a dollar, was almost 180 shillings per dollar. Today, and I just checked this morning, it's now 132, meaning that actually we are doing very well in terms of the economy. I think it's growing. Let's face the fact as it is. It is growing, and I think we have now got to be very careful on what we do so that we don't go back to where we were. I want to, first and foremost, thank the committee, because one, as they are very concerned on the agriculture, which is actually a cornerstone of the economy in this country. And so, first and foremost, they have put some money in agriculture, and I think one is a fertilizer subsidy. Of course, we have had issues with that. That's again is something that I know we went around. I'm in the Committee of Agriculture. We went around and we found a few places with fake fertilizer. But again, the other areas, and for me, for example, Trans Nzoia, we didn't have any problem. So subsidized fertilizer, I think it was okay. Secondly, KCC, which again has been boosted so that it can be able to produce enough milk and export the milk, particularly the powdered milk, which is true. About 3 months ago, I was in the Middle East, and I was shocked that before that, when I was working, before I became a member of parliament, Mr. Speaker, I was in the Middle East, and you go for breakfast, and the waiter comes ask you whether you want milk, which is water, or powdered milk. At that time, you'll find KCC was in the Middle East. Recently, you would go there, you find this milk from Uganda. So I think this boost on dairy, at least in KCC, to be able to make our farmers produce more milk for making powdered milk for export, I think again it's going to add some foreign exchange earners for our country. Of course, we know that sugarcane again, they have cleared the dates of some of the dates that actually were holding, and I think we also should be able to have at least our factories producing enough sugarcane for our production, for our consumption, and even maybe send to the areas that actually do not have that kind of facility. One very important thing is the stocking of the livestock. That actually in areas in the northeastern province of this country, we had a very dry spell there, and farmers lost almost all their stocks. Today, again, we have these heavy rains. Again, all over the country, we lost quite a number of stocks, again, livestock. And so the government has put some money there to be able to compensate farmers. And I think that's one thing that, again, to be able to help the farmers who depended on livestock to improve their well-being. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank the committee for having come up with this, because it was a well-balanced approach. And I remember meeting them myself in the Committee of Agriculture. And one very important thing that has come up, the members, maybe those who didn't get it right, is the fact that we are going to have about 150 million shillings from the current one to be able to do quite a number of things using CDF money in our constituencies. That again is a plus, and I think that if it's implemented to the letter, I think we'll be able to improve the economy of our country and be able to complete some of the projects that we had started. And I guess that is again something that we'll see. Of course, Electricity, the last mile connectivity, again, giving 50 million shillings per constituency is something that I've really been waiting for, because we have had a lot of problems, particularly in my area. I don't know about other members of parliament areas, but connectivity of the electricity in various areas has been an issue. And of course, given now that they're giving us almost 50 million shillings per constituency, Mr. Speaker, I think this will be able to sort out some of the problems we've had, and particularly connecting steamer. And I think some of us, you are told, hey man, you have electricity in your home and the neighbor doesn't have that. But that last mile connectivity, I think, will be able to help, so that the tension that was there between members of parliament and those who are in the authority and wananchi will be able to, again, be silenced. I think that is important. Of course, more important, of course, is the fact that this committee has told us, and quite agree, that are going to put 10%, 10 million, is it 10% increment to our staff. Yeah, we know as a member of parliament, most of you subsidize these people working for you, and at times, when a speaker, you find you live and your workers say he has no money, what have you have to pull money from the pocket. But this 10% increment, I think, is going to at least improve the welfare of our workers who have been working for us, the drivers, of course, the bodyguards, what have you. I think this is a very good gesture, and I think I want to thank the committee for having come up with that idea, and I think it's going to help our people very well. So I think the fact that the economy is growing is a good news, and let's be serious. And of course, money given to the county again, I think it's almost 400 billion shillings to the county. I think let the governors work with the elected leaders. There are some who are very selfish, Mr. Speaker. I don't know about it, but some people are very selfish, the governors. We are given the money, and you go and check the development programs in some of these counties, there is none. For example, we had a problem of water. In most constituencies, and I've talked to my colleagues here, and governors did nothing. And, and yet, of course, it's a devolved function. Should have been able to clear some of these issues. But I think giving 400 billion shillings to the county is a very good gesture. And I hope and pray that for the welfare of our people, let the governors work with us and be able to actually correct some of the mistakes for the prosperity of our own people that actually voted for us. I don't want to take so much of the time, but I think most of the things have been discussed and highlighted. I just want to say, Mr. Speaker, that let's work, and I think this committee has done a very good thing. And these people have been out there calling, say you supported the budget bill last financial year, and well, let's work together. Where we find there's a mistake, we'll correct. Where you find that the committee has come up with an issue that is not important, we can correct and be able to move forward, so that we don't have these oppositions and shouting at each other. This has already been done. I do believe that this time around, let's work as a team to be able to implement whatever we're doing. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I support.
Chira.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to support the budget estimates for the financial year 24-25 as laid by the chairman. Mr. Speaker, as the chairman said, this process was very consultative, and the departmental committees were able to meet the various state departments and engage with them. The budget committee then met with the chairs of departmental committees, and we were also able to engage with them. Apart from that, Mr. Speaker, to 20 counties were chosen randomly and spread across the regions, where we were able to do public participation. And we, as members of the budget committee, visited all the 20 counties, and we were able to listen to the public, and their views were incorporated in this report that has been tabled. And hence, it has been a very consultative process. And Mr. Speaker, I want to just contribute in a few areas that we've made proposals as the budget committee to the House. And Mr. Speaker, it's important to know that in the estimates that were tabled by the Treasury, most of the sagas were allocated almost zero budget, not even money to pay salaries. And probably the Treasury did that in line with the proposed restructuring and privatization of the some of the parastatals and sagas. But through consultation with the chairman of the departmental committees and the Treasury, we were able to reallocate some money to those sagas, because the argument was, even if we are restructuring, we are not likely to do it the following month. It will take time. And therefore, we needed to allocate money, at least for the payment of PEs, as we are doing the restructuring. Mr. Speaker, it's important to note that there is, like the chairman said, an allocation of money towards electrification, where every county will be given some amount equally. And the reason behind this, Mr. Chairman, and actually we have a proposal that this is the route. Managed constituencies should be the reference point as we are allocating resources, because this will reduce the inequality in terms of allocation of resources, because inequality, Mr. Speaker, it could be intra and inter-county. You realize that there are some, even within counties, there are some constituencies that sometimes get more resources compared to others. And therefore, we are recommending, even in other sectors like water, we allocate money per constituency. Then the constituency would be able to decide if it is borehole, if it is water pans, where that money goes. And this will be able to reduce the inequality in terms of allocation of resources. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the electrification, members may recall that in the supplementary budget, there was an allocation of some money to REREC in the supplementary that is ongoing, that will go to help capacity enhancement for REREC in preparation to absorption of the amount of money that is allocated in the main budget. And the capacity enhancement, members know that before you connect an area to the grid, the area needs to be surveyed. So we need surveyors, more surveyors in REREC. We need more designers in REREC. And the money that was allocated to in supplementary was in preparation for the connection of the absorption of the 50 million per constituency. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to know that there is an allocation of 2.7 billion towards school infrastructure. Again, this will go through CDF, because we don't want members to be queuing in the PS's office following money for infrastructure. Let this money be allocated through CDF, because for sure every constituency needs school infrastructure. And once this money is allocated through CDF, members, through public participation, will be able to identify areas that need school infrastructure. There's an allocation of some 20 billion towards payment of pending bill, and this is awaiting the recommendation of the pending bills verification committee that is doing the verification of pending bills, so that once the verification is done, our contractors and entrepreneurs who have given services to the government will be able to be paid the money that is owed to them. Mr. Speaker, most members have talked about the confirmation of interns, and this is a matter that we really engaged with the Education Committee. The initial recommendation was confirmation of the 26,000 interns. But, Mr. Speaker, there are more than 26,000 interns that were engaged with the TSC. The total interns who are currently engaged by TSC are 46,000. And therefore, we were inquiring which process will TSC use to choose the 26,000 and not 20,000. And therefore, we came to a conclusion that all the 46,000 interns should be confirmed. And we unanimously agreed that the interns should not be subjected to any further interview because they were already interviewed when they were being engaged as interns. And we have a proposal that the interns, the TSC, should not wait until January, as they have been saying, because these interns have already been interviewed. It's a matter of just confirming them. So the TSC should be able to confirm them as early as 1st of July in permanent and pensionable terms. Mr. Speaker, these are, as the chairman indicated, the increment of NCDF kit. Again, it will go towards implementation. We know, of course, we have the CBC, which is where we don't have infrastructure like school laboratories, more classrooms, and this will also go ahead in terms of improving infrastructure in the towards various schools. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, there is also a 6 billion allocation towards public universities where the students were not, towards the new funding model of the university students. Mr. Speaker, we've seen reports that most students are preferring colleges to universities because of the bills. Once they are called to the university, the fee structure that they are served with is too big that they are discouraged and they end up choosing colleges instead. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, budgeting, appropriating money is one thing, but exchequer release is another one. Mr. Speaker, we've faced a situation where you budget for a project or for an activity, but you end up not getting exchequer release. And this is a challenge that I want to put to the House leadership, such that once we budget for something, it is upon the House leadership to follow up with Treasury to ensure that there is exchequer release and that that project that we've budgeted for is implemented. I support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Fatuma Jeho, and then followed by the Honorable MP for Yatta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to take this opportunity to make my remarks on the supplementary estimate 2. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the committee, the chairman of the budget committee, and the team that had taken their time to burn the midnight oil. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, in any budget, there are always the gainers and the losers. Today, I am happy that education and indeed security have gotten some increase in the budget. And I want to take this opportunity to talk to the TSC, to perhaps take this opportunity to end the issues of unemployed teachers from the northeastern part of this country. There are so many teachers who are not employed, and we